Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Violet Defense for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement some of their existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com for more information about their great products. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards allow you to generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We have a Sideline Interactive video score table in our gym, and it is fantastic. You really need to check it out. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. I promise you, you will be very impressed. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, visit vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or learn more, you can call 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. You will be very impressed. We also want to thank Huddle. At Huddle, we power sports. More than 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the play of their athletes and their teams using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and colleges, and even professional organizations use Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you or how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic department. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also puts you in touch with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program, and it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used Survey to check the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going out to Oklahoma today and visit with Jason Culler. Jason is a certified master athletic administrator. He's the associate director at Jenks High School, probably one of the more well-known schools in the Midwest. He's got a long record of history with the state association. He was a past president of the Oklahoma Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. He's currently on the board, and he also serves as the NIAAA Liaison for his association. Jason Culler, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
We connected a while back, and wanted to get this on. So we're excited to hear what's going on in Oklahoma, and also the things that you can share on our talking points. But as you know, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? And how'd your path lead you to your current position at Jenks High School?
Well, I grew up in Enid, Oklahoma, which is in northwestern part of Oklahoma, and married my high school sweetheart. We have 3 kids. So we've been together since '93. She can't get rid of me. But I grew up in Enid playing football, basketball, baseball, running track. In Enid, there's not much to do other than farm. So you're either playing sports or you're farming. And so I tried to avoid the tractor as much as possible. So I tried to play every sport possible. Luckily, I was able to parlay that into an opportunity to further my education. And so I went to the University of Oklahoma and played football for 3 years. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually graduated from Oklahoma State University because my wife and I got married, and she was in graduate school at OSU. And so I went over there for my last 15 hours. So my current role as an athletic director, I got into this role because obviously a long line of coaching. I've coached girls basketball, girls track, football, baseball, golf, everything except tennis and swimming. So the next step was obviously athletic administration. And so I had an athletic administrator who was horrific. He was probably the antithesis of athletic administration and being a servant leader. And so I thought, man, if this guy can do this, then I can do it. And so that's ultimately where I went to. It wasn't a goal that I set out to be an athletic administrator, but it just kind of happened.
Sometimes people, they have a purpose in life, and it's to serve as, a bad example. So the rest of us can hopefully, go in a different direction. Talk a little bit about, and I'll give you a chance to share some best practices, but for our listeners, if you've never heard of Jenks High School, you are not well versed in the world of athletics, high school athletics. Very few high schools, I think, are known nationally. Talk a little bit about, and I don't want to step on our best practices, but talk a little bit about, I guess, the mystique or the history or what makes Jenks, what has made it so well known, so successful that it's nationally recognized.
Well, I think the prominence nationally comes from our football program. We're in the state of Oklahoma, we're 18-time state champions. We've been to 24 of the last 25 state championship games, and we've won 18 of those. So the mystique has come from there. We've played, regionally and nationally. We've played, Euless Trinity. We played Hoover. We've played those big names that everybody knows now. And so football is kind of what put us on the map. And we had a legendary coach, Alan Trimble. Alan passed away 2 years ago from ALS. But Alan is what started the prominence in football and he won 16 of those 18 state championships. So nationally, he's known because he's been recognized as the national coach of the year, high school football coach of the year, and things like that. And what people don't know is that football is not, it's our most prevalent, but it's not our most decorated. Our swim teams, they've won over 35 state championships. Our baseball teams won state championships. In the last year alone, in the last fiscal year, so basically January 1 to December 31st, we won 9 state championships just last year in multiple different sports. But football is what definitely put us on the map. Coach Trimble was, if you talk best practices, he was the definition of servant leader. He was a guy who was nationally recognized and internationally known. But if you were in the room with him for 2 minutes, you would swear you were his best friend and his only best friend. That's the way he just had a way about him that made you feel that way. So I'm very blessed to be in the role that I'm at here at Jenks, and just to be here is a dream.
Oh, no, very cool. Glad you were able to share that. Before we take our break, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. One of my very dear friends, in fact, my AD mentor, is a gentleman named Greg Purdom, who's from Enid, Oklahoma. Does that name ring a bell at all? Okay.
No, he may be a little bit before my time.
He's just a hair older than me. So yeah, but no, Greg was the athletic director and the head football coach at Missouri Valley College back in the 90s when I had the pleasure of coaching for him. And again, I remember he always said he was from Enid, Oklahoma. All right, for a listen. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say there's a lot of people famous from Enid. Leona Mitchell, the opera singer from Enid. We got some playwrights, the people in Hollywood and stuff. Obviously, the fine arts.
Again, it's people here. I'm from Oregon, and they say, "Oh, do you know so and so?" And I go, "Well, it's a pretty big state," but I couldn't help but ask that question. For our listeners, we're visiting with Jason Culler. He's the Associate Athletic Director at Jenks High School in Jenks, Oklahoma. We're going to be back with some more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Huddle for their support of the podcast. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. More than 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their teams play better. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and colleges, and even professional programs use Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program, or how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We're back with Jason Culler, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Associate AD at Jenks High School in Jenks, Oklahoma. Jason, you were talking a little bit about, as you were starting out in the profession, and you had an AD that probably wasn't a great example, which is an example in itself. But who are some of the positive mentors that you've had? The people that have challenged you, encouraged you, maybe kicked you in the butt while they were patting you on the back as well. Who's had an impact on your career to get you to this point?
Well, I would say that the person that comes to the front of my mind has led me into the profession where I'm at currently, and I probably wouldn't be where I'm at without him, and that's Mark Chambers. Mark was my athletic director when I was coaching football and track at Bishop Kelly High School here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mark is now with Varsity Brands, Impact, BSN. He's one of their developmental leaders. And so Mark comes to mind first and foremost I like to tell him all the time, I wouldn't be where I'm at without you, because he's the one that kind of guided me and led me down the path to where I'm currently at with my CMAA and the other things that I have because of him. In the profession, mentors that I look up to, Emily Barkley at Union, it's a crosstown rivalry, and people, they know it as such, but Emily's just a blessing. You can reach out to her and ask her, because 9 times out of 10, she's been there and done that. So you can always bounce ideas off of her. Our state education director, Stephanie Blackwell. Stephanie's another one that, you can always ask information, and she's willing to share and be a mentor and help guide you and direct you. And then Tony Dillingham. Tony is actually my boss here. We were friends prior to me getting this position, and he was a mentor long before I ever came here with him. But Tony is one of those that I learn from daily. Just best practices and how to deal with upset parents and coaches that may be struggling and things like that. I learn from him daily. So those are the ones that step out front for me right now. I wouldn't be in this profession without my high school coaches, my football and basketball coaches. They planted the seed without me knowing that this was the profession I was going to go into, but I wanted to try to emulate them and just show them that, I can be successful. So
it's always great to hear the people that are named by our guests, and it's better, more fun for me when I actually recognize the names. I've come across them. Emily and Stephanie, are two good friends. We just had them on together a couple weeks ago. Kind of an updated episode. Very neat stuff. You mentioned your journey with NIAAA, and we get a lot of younger ADs that listen to the podcast, and I think it's important for them to hear the journeys that people like you and I have taken. We've been in the profession for a while, but talk a little bit about how you first became aware of your state association and how that led to your involvement with NIAAA.
So for me, it kind of goes back to my mentor, Mark Chambers. Mark was a longtime athletic administrator in Oklahoma, 25 plus years. And when I became an athletic administrator, he called me and he just said, hey, look, you're going to do great things, and I want to be here to help get you going in the right direction. And so at the time I took this athletic director's role, I wasn't aware of the OIAAA or the NIAAA or any of the LTC courses that are offered, or professional development or any of that. And so visiting with Mark, he kind of started me down the path that, hey, you need to join the OIAAA, which is our state association here. He just said, hey, you need to join this. And he didn't tell me any of the benefits of it. He just said, you have to do this. So me being a guy who looks up to Mark, I'm just going to do what Mark says. My mother would say, if Mark asked you to jump off a bridge, would you? And I probably would. But no, he definitely told me, hey, this is how you get involved, and you need to be involved. And so I joined the OIAAA, and we're a dual state here. So once I joined the OIAAA, we automatically got the NIAAA membership. Wasn't aware of that as much when I initially started. It was about 3 years in, and Mark kept whittling on me, just, hey, you got to go to this NADC, you got to go to the national conference. And I was at a poor district, a Title I district. We low income, low funds, couldn't find the funding to go, and they wouldn't send me professionally. So I just paid for the first trip myself. And man, was I ever grateful that I did, because that's where I took my first LTC class and started down the path of getting my certification. I didn't even know what the CAA was at the time. I was 7 years in the profession before I ever got a CAA or even knew what the CAA was. Then once I realized what it was and the doors that it could open, I knew I had to get the CMAA. In the state of Oklahoma, there's only 8 of us that are CMAAs in the state of Oklahoma. And so, for me, it became a challenge, a challenge to be one of 8 recognized in the state of Oklahoma and one of a few nationally and internationally. So that's kind of how I started. And from that, I kind of branched out. We have an organization here called Northeast Oklahoma Athletic Directors Association, or NIAAA is what we call it. And it's basically a regional athletic directors group And so we started that, and I'm the president of that. And we go out quarterly and we meet with athletic directors, provide lunch. We have an opportunity to talk and meet with our governing body, which is the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association. We meet with them. They come in, they let us know of things that are coming down the pipe that athletic directors need to be aware of, rule changes, important dates to remember, things like that. But it's also an opportunity for us to meet with athletic directors and do exactly what you're doing here, Jake, is just give them the information on how to become involved in the OIAAA, the NIAAA, get those certifications. The best thing I ever did was get LTC courses and go and get my certification, because now I'm able to take those practices and put them to use here in my role.
Yeah, you mentioned not knowing about the association. That's certainly how I was in Florida. You don't know what you don't know. But when I did find out, when I took that first LTI course, it's just, I guess I'll try this. It was like drinking the Kool-Aid for me. And so I immediately went back home, signed up for the online courses, met the qualifications for CAA, and was just off and running. So very, very cool. We're going to do this again at the end of the podcast, but if one of our athletic directors wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, I think that's such a cool idea to create a regional organization. How can they get a hold of you, Jason?
Well, you can call my office, which is 918-299-4415, extension 2461. You can call my cell phone, 918-633-3098, or you can text that number, or you can email me. My email address is jason.culler, Culler, at Jenks, PS, as in public schools, and that's JENKSPS.org.
Okay. Again, we'll do that at the end of the show if you didn't get a chance to write all that down. We're visiting with Jason Culler, Certified Master Athletic Administrator from Jenks High School in Oklahoma. We'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and find out exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. You will be very impressed. We're back with Jason Culler from Jenks High School. Jason, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What are some things that y'all do at Jenks that you're particularly proud of, and that when you sit back, you can say with equal parts pride and humility, boy, we really do a great job? What are some best practices you can share?
Well, and I think the best practices that are shared on your show are obviously awesome, and we borrow from each other. So I would say that the one thing that we do here is we have a leadership council, which if you don't have a leadership council within your school, I would highly recommend doing that, because it gives you the pulse of the student body and the students that you're leading, and your whole job as a student administrator is to be student driven. So you have to find out what makes them tick and how best to serve them, because that's what you're doing in your role. But we started with nothing. We went to and I actually found this at the NADC. I sat in on the developing a leadership council, and saw some wonderful speakers there. But there are people in your community that are willing to help you do this. We reached out to Chick-fil-A, which had no idea that they had a leadership curriculum and a leadership. They helped fund that, and I found that through the NADC with the course that I was setting in the breakout session. They told me about Chick-fil-A being a sponsor, and that they have that, and they do. And so whether it's providing lunch or breakfast for the kids, we meet quarterly and just kind of come in, have fun time. We do a student summit in the summer where we come in, we do trust building and exercises, things like that, to kind of kick off the school year. But we do hand out swag. We have BSN, and locally here we have Midwest Sporting Goods that they provide us with swag, so the kids all get some cool swag. And so I'd say our leadership council is probably one of the things that we're most proud of. And I know a lot of schools around here do have leadership councils or something like that. And so there are a lot of great ones out there, and we just have basically stolen from other people on how to make ours unique to fit our situation.
You bring up a couple of really important points. Number one, the fact that you took the time to establish your own student leadership program. It's a great program, and you're right. Many schools have them, but that should not prevent any school from starting something just because they didn't invent it. And then the process, you heard about it in an LTI course, or you heard about something in a workshop, or maybe an AD was sharing it at an informal discussion outside of the regularly scheduled activities. It doesn't matter how you hear about it. It's just, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. And that's exactly how I started our student leadership program at my previous school back in, 2012 maybe, because I heard about it in a workshop. Wow, that's a pretty cool idea. So you're absolutely right. Athletic directors are great at borrowing or stealing or just absconding with great ideas. And at the same time, athletic directors are more than willing to share and tell you about it. It's not proprietary. It's, hey, how can I help you? So very, very cool stuff. Okay. For our listeners, we're visiting with Jason Culler. He's the Associate Director of Athletics at Jenks High School in Jenks, Oklahoma. We're going to be back with some more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For more ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. You won't be disappointed. We're back with Jason Culler, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Associate AD at Jenks High School in Oklahoma. Jason, 100 years ago when I was in high school, it was very common for my coaches to say things like, come on, Jake, you got to be tough, or come on, Jake, you got to suck it up. And I think over the years, we've learned, maybe better ways to, communicate, what we'd like as coaches. But toughness is such an important component of sports and even of life. So here's my question to you. How can a coach or an athletic director coach kids to be tough while also being sensitive to and aware of the very real social emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid is experiencing? What's your take on that?
Well, I grew up along the same lines as you, Jake, in the sense that, coach grab you by the face mask, hook your tail up, let's go, suck it up, you're dogging it, that type of thing. And the one thing that I wish that my coaches would have done for me growing up was show some vulnerability. Let me know where you're coming from as a coach. Communicate that with me, so that you're not just telling me, hey, do this or do that, but I get to know you on a personal level. And so I like to, throughout my coaching career, I always was very empathetic, and I was very vulnerable in the sense that, when we were not on the field, we were doing team building or things like that, I was obviously trying to build relationships with my student athletes. And so the one thing that I would do is share stories, about my upbringing and things like that, that definitely weren't always sports related, but would somehow parlay over into, mental and physical toughness. I think communicating and being vulnerable, opening up, being honest with your kids, to let them know that you're not just asking them to do the things that you haven't already done. But I think, for me, I grew up dirt poor, single parent family. So I have a little bit more unique perspective on this than some maybe. But my story's not different than a lot of people. And so, I would share those stories and just try to communicate and try to build relationships that were not sports specific.
Yeah, you touch on such a important point, that vulnerability, which I think is a component of showing the kids that you care, you care about them, outside of coaching. And I know as a young coach, and maybe as a not so young coach, that was an area that I wish I would have done a better job with the kids that I coached. I certainly wasn't, like my high school coaches, who I loved and who did a great job. It was just that's how they did things back then. But again, it's the cliche of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's a cliche because it's true. Okay. It is so very true, particularly now. Very cool stuff. Well, Jason, this has been neat sitting down with you and getting to know a little bit about you and your program, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with the Athletic Director's Toolbox, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to task you with sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack, and then we're going to find out what Jason Culler is going to put in his athletic director's toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for their support of the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also puts you in touch with the usually 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to check the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. All right, we are back with Jason Culler, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Associate Director of Athletics at Jenks High School. Jason, it's that time. We know that you're a very experienced AD, but right now I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new AD on their very first job. So what 3 tools are going to go in Jason Culler's Athletic Director Toolbox?
I think the information that I would share with new athletic directors is be involved at your local level, your state level, and your national level. You're going to gather so much valuable experience sharing ideas with colleagues much older than yourself, or much more have much more expertise in the field than you will. And so build your network, state, local, national. Get the information from the old hats who've been there and done that, and so you can always get great information. I think Jake said it earlier that It's not stealing. We're just borrowing and trying to manipulate to fit what molds us best. So definitely contact those people and reach out and build your network. I would say locally, have yourself a 30, 60, 90-day plan and stick to it. Write those down, put them in your pocket, put them somewhere where you can see them on a daily basis. And 30, 60, 90-day plan will help you get established in your new role as an athletic director. And then another thing I would say is just build relationships with your school community, not just the community within which your school sets, but your school setting as well, your principals, administrators, your teachers. Be visible, be out there, put yourself out there so that people know who you are and what you're about, and share as much as you can with them what your vision is, so that they know that when you make decisions that affect them or their setting where they're at, that they know that it's where it's coming from and why you're doing what you're doing.
Wow, that was some really important tools. And as you and I talked about, some of those tools already appear in the athletic director's toolbox. But thanks so much for sharing. I love the 30, 60, 90. We've had a lot of people talk about, you got to plan, you got to be organized. But I love that, much more immediate versus a little bit longer term planning. We did this earlier in the show, but I want to do it again. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, how can they get a hold of you?
My office number, 918-299-4415, extension 2461. Cell phone is 918-633-3098. And my email address is jason.culler, that's CULLER, at Jenks PS, as in public schools, that's JENKSPS.org.
Jason Culler, thanks so much for being on the podcast, and all the best for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate you having me on. I love the podcast. I continually watch it. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your support. For listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews are uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. To learn more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program, go to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing.